Hi. Can you hear the rain? I have the back door open. It's pouring rain. It's definitely not the first time it's rained at the Jersey Shore on Memorial Day weekend. Definitely. But for me, it is the first time. Oh, wow. Did you hear that? It is the first time I ever remember it. Ever remember not working on Memorial Day weekend. Bam! Like the universe just like, that's a really big deal for me. Holy cow, did you hear that? That scared me. Speaking of scaring me, wow, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Stay tuned, there might be more. I didn't plan that. Okay, but listen, I woke up this morning and I was disappointed. We were supposed to have beach yoga. And no beach yoga. It's raining. Maybe tomorrow, Monday. We got all summer, yes. But I was disappointed. I sat down and I was having my coffee. And listened to James Taylor. It's James Taylor. It's like he's helping me get through this quarantine time, for sure. Love James Taylor. And one of my favorite songs, when I started listening to Shower the People, and then I started thinking about shower and rain and and fire and rain and all his songs. I got up and I started moving and dancing, and that's my message. We got to move the energy. I listened to that when I started dancing to Shower the People and Fire and Rain. I started crying. It makes me cry, and I don't even know why I'm crying. But I sometimes, maybe because I have, we all have built up stuff, disappointment, frustration, sadness, grief. You don't have to figure it out. You really don't. Get out of your head. I'm reminding myself, get out of my head and just move. And that energy will start, I always feel so much better after and I don't start moving and dancing with James Taylor to plan on sometimes I feel joy. I feel whoa, I'm jumping out of my skin with joy. Whatever it is, or usually our stuff, our emotions, they get pushed down, and it actually blocks our joy. So when we release all that stuff, the sadness and the grief and the disappointment, then we can feel how we're normally supposed to feel. Joyful, happy, alive, free. And all of those emotions, they're all okay. It reminds me, last night I had a conversation with a friend, and she's living in quarantine with her extended family, that are home, many people are, and and some stuff is happening, because it's gosh, I said to her, it's communal living, right? Communal living, and if you've ever lived, I grew up there was a family of 10, so there was definitely things that people get on each other's skin. There's bound to be things. And anyway, we were just talking about how to navigate that so you keep it clean and clear so that things don't build up. And because when things build up, then there's going to be a blow up. A blow up. Did you hear that? Oh my God. Woo! A blow up. And then, because when we push things down, then boom, things sooner or later. That's why people kick the dog and hit their children. I think, because or road rage. Road rage isn't about the person in the next car. It's about the person driving the car having road rage. Has so much stuff built up that they just explode over when they reach a certain point, a threshold. So you know what? Do what you got to do. Move your body. Dance. Put on some music. Just let it out. Shake it out. Get that stuff out. There's research that shows, I love this guy, what's his name? Peter Levine, I think it is, it'll come to me. He wrote a book called Waking the Tiger. And he's very, he's been around, I'm guessing he's probably maybe even in his 70s. He's posting sharing a lot of stuff now, even with COVID. But his life work is about, he studied animals in the wild. He's a PhD psychologist or an MD, but so it comes to mind because I was introduced to his work over 20 years ago when I was doing this at a yoga center, we were doing body-based somatic work. But his research shows that this is the cool thing, when animals in the wild, like tigers specifically, like he did this research, like they actually, they showed this like helicopter that was going over the African jungle, and then they shot down like a tranquilizer, I guess you'd say, to the tiger, and the tiger got knocked out, and then the helicopter landed, and they tagged it, so that they can follow, and they're doing whatever research. I mean, maybe that's, people don't agree with those things, but their intentions are good. So anyway, and then they weren't hurting the animal, they were just tagging the animal. But then this is the interesting part. What they noticed is when the animal got up or came out of its tranquilization, if that's a word, it actually shook off. It shook. It shook. And then what they noticed is animals, when they're traumatized or fearful, when they're in that fear state, like say they're chased by a predator, and then after they survive, when they finish like that chase, when they escape, they shake off that fear and trauma. They release it in their body. We humans, like, when was the last time you like shook it off, or like, right? So I'm a body worker, so I kind of like, this is all stuff that just geeks, I geek out with this stuff, but that's what our bodies do. They store all this. So anyway, the gist of it is we hope we can learn to like release things that are built up, because they say like in our lifetime we process and experience so much more than our ancestors ever did, so much more, because we're exposed to like media 24/7 on the whole planet. Like back 100, 200 years ago, people just knew what was going on in their little community. Like, unless a horse drove into town and let them know the news of what was happening somewhere else, they didn't know what was happening on the whole planet. That's a lot to process. We process more now in like a day, probably, than our ancestors did in their lifetime, or something like, I don't know what the exact statistics are, but it's astounding. It's astounding. So all that stuff gets built up, and fear and anxiety and worry and grief and grieving for the world, and like all the I don't know if our nervous systems have evolved to process all that without some of these tools that are really basic, like the animals. So when I like dance in the morning, I feel like I'm doing my shake, and I'm like just letting my body move and groove. And then sometimes, honestly, like emotions come, sadness, crying, and I feel like I'm just letting that, it's a natural thing, like a natural thing. So anyway, let it out. The storm here will continue. I said like that this quarantine started out to feel like it was just going to be a 2-week sprint. And for all of us, we thought, I can do 2 weeks, but it's turning into a marathon, like a grueling marathon. And you know what? I never ran a marathon before, but like the people who have, like I've talked to people, and I've done body work on people that are training for a marathon or have run a marathon. And most of them, they all talk about like, how it's a lot of it is mental, real mental. Because you hit the wall. They talk about this, whatever mile of the 26.2 miles, maybe it's mile 17, 18, 19, something like that, where your body just wants to give up. It's just like the tank is empty, you're hurting, it's painful. And then if you just hang in there, then like something clicks and you get these endorphins, or like something happens and you get a second wind. And then like you can just keep going and like get to the finish line. So that's my wish for you as we kick off summer, that we just somehow are able to just get our mind right and like shake things out, and just not keep that stuff pushed down. Let ourselves be vulnerable and feel what's there, and and know that we'll get through this. We will get through this. It's a marathon. It's almost becoming, it might become like an Ironman. An Ironman thing is like one of those events that, let's say, it's like a marathon plus a 200-mile bike ride and a 2-mile swim. Like, oh my gosh, right? Who knows? Like, we just got to hunker down and know that we're all we're resilient. We're stronger than we think. We've got so much resources inside of us, and the capacity to really do hard things like to really do, like, you know, it's not easy, but just hang in there and have a wonderful kickoff to Memorial Day weekend. The storm continues. Lots of love. Bye.